Okay, weekend wrap up. Hey guys, it's Coach Tim. Today we're going to talk about the world of SEO. It's a crazy week. Tragedy, angst, reunion, disruption, a bonus tip on free transcription for your content creation, and comparing it to AI with many embedded gifts. And I'll end it with my blockchain commentary. Hype, or is it the future? Let's get you started. Not sure if you got the gratitude vids I did last week, which referenced the original. I wanted to just push this in real quick. I snuck an SEO lesson in there, and one of them that I put at the end was that Michael Jackson, the king of pop, taught me about SEO. And by the way, this is way before there was a Google. So first on the gratitude thing. Feeling gratitude can change your life, and it reframes everything, which is really the important part here to understand. It presupposes abundance. You can't feel gratitude unless something's got to be good. So you feel those feelings. So if you're a doubting Thomas on the power of it, then just feel how you would feel if you were totally grateful for anything and everything. Anchor it, fire it off at will. You don't know what that means, then you got to watch the video. Okay, the original MJ, Michael, king of pop. He helped inform my role to focus on big drivers, the leverage that will move the giant ship, the chord that will make the song or kill the song. To major in majors, do not major in minors unless that minor is a major, like a chord in B minor. And I don't even know what that means, but it sounded good. B minor, what is that? So big concepts matter, like novelty, which is a word I stole from therapist Esther Perel, her book, Mating in Captivity. Novelty is really the first letter of the acronym in AIDA, which is awareness. Maybe novelty might help with interest and also desire and to take action, right? So, hey, we're doing marketing stuff here. So priming, there's a psychological concept called psychological priming or prime. Have you heard the phrase prime the pump? Well, you could do that in your marketing, and you could do it in your SEO. It is sort of a subliminal advertising concept. You know that word, right? So I'm kind of giving you the foundations here. So in fact, subliminal is what got me interested in psychology and behavior and sales. I was on a football recruiting trip to Santa Clara U. I was introduced to a rival opponent from St. John Bosco, Terry O'Hara. Man, he was a freshman. And he remembered me, which was kind of flattering. And I sure remember playing against him. And I was in his dorm, and he had a book on his shelf. He was a psych major, and the book was called Clam Bake Orgy by a guy named Keyes. And I asked him why he has this orgy book at a rather Catholic university. Not Franciscans, Jesuits nonetheless. And he explained the concept of subliminals, and a new path was started for yours truly. By the way, when I mention a book, I'll link it with my affiliate links at the bottom, but you can also get this stuff. I mean, research it. If you want to be a master at learning things, learn how to deep dive and how to do research on this stuff instead of just random willy-nilly taking in stuff. I'm going to show you how to do this in a second, and also how to use some of this in the same way to build your content. So if you find topics interesting, go ahead and deep dive into this. So priming is like next level stuff, right? Beyond subliminal. So two great demonstrations of priming can be seen in the movie with Will Smith and Margot Robbie, called Focus. And there are two cons that are pros and use priming to influence their gambling bets so that they'll be able to get other people to bet on something that they want to bet against something that they want to bet on, maybe is a better way of saying it, but it's a pretty cool movie nonetheless. And another one, if you're more cerebral about these things, is the Darren Brown docs on YouTube. Look up Darren Brown priming. I'll have links, some great examples, but also in any of this, remember, as one of my mentors, Jonathan Alfield, reminded me once, it's television. They, like in Darren, he sorts for the right subjects to feature in his shows. But man, I saw one where it was how to create luck. He created luck for this whole town in, I think it was England somewhere. Small little kind of isolated town, primed the whole town to be lucky, and it was pretty amazing. The book Pre-suasion by Robert Cialdini is in many ways about priming. This will blow your mind. In one chapter, Cialdini described the Valentine study, where a young woman approaches two random samples of middle-aged men on a busy street, walking alone, pointing to a group of males. She claims they've stolen her cell phone and asked them to get it back for her. In the first sample, I'm sorry, I got distracted. In the first sample, 20% approached the group, whereas in the second, 37% do. Minutes before, all the subject had been approached by another young woman asking directions. The first sample was primed by asking for Martin Street, and then the second one was for Valentine Street. So where a request wasn't enough, just one word, a persuasive or a prime opener, Valentine, changed the response by putting them in a mind, in a state, in a frame of romance. So what does that have to do with SEO and websites? Well, let me tell you. Cialdini also showed how focusing away from the cost by placing a sofa that was for sale on a background of fluffy clouds increased the importance of comfort and an increase in purchase cost perception. When the same item was placed against a background of small coins, respondents rated cost and price as more important and had a lower perceived cost of the sofa. It's that easy. So how do we do it stealthy, like Will Smith in the movie, to win a bet? Well, in SEO, in digital, it's ranking, right? Who's one of the biggest businesses in the world? I'll name a few: Google, YouTube, Facebook, Meta. Social proof is another Cialdini concept, another word. If you're not seeped in this stuff, then think of testimonial, right? We love testimonials, right? To get them from our clients. Now, think of testimonials subliminally inserted. So if you respect any of the guys mentioned so far and you got this far, then you've allowed me to steal some of their authority and to rub it onto yours truly. I'll give you an example of that. And I'm probably giving away something, but I'm going to give you some insider stuff. You want to know how Tony Robbins does some of his magic on stage? He has been, if you look it up, once in a while, you'll see him go, Jesus Christ. He's anchoring. If you go to my gratitude video, you'll see I do the anchoring of gratitude here, and right, you could fire that off. Well, a lot of people are anchored to Jesus Christ, and he points to himself just like I did. So you take with that whatever you want. But I was trying to demonstrate it. Sorry, but you'll see him make these like cool gestures. I don't have that kind of flexibility in my smiling like he does, but he'll go, do stuff like that, or he'll hit himself. That's very wide. He's a huge dude, so it's very encompassing. So anyway, that's what that rubbing it onto yours truly thing was. So anyway, by being in Google top page, top listing, with tons of your space taking up Google via schema, which is a little geeky stuff, but if you have schema in your web page and your code, it will help you get extra space on Google. Well, you're psychologically implying that you're endorsed by Google. You're on the front page, you must be, right? So you are, in fact, in a very technical way, but you are, in fact. It doesn't matter what we try to do as far as break it down. The consumer is all that matters. They don't give a crap about a schema or any of that. They just like the experience, right? On their phone or on their desktop. So now I click on one of the several choices that are displayed on Google. So many choices, in fact, like your ad at the top, or your GMB. I know they changed the name, but I'm an old dog. Or your organic placement on your website, or maybe your Yelp listing. There's you everywhere. Oh, look, the video's there. And so are some of your photos. And that blog post has a snippet of 3 questions that break down, and you're taking up all this space on Google's first page. Does so much you all over Google presuppose authority and endorsement by the biggest company in the world? Hell yes. And I call this ubiquity you. I go to your site or GMB, cruise over to your Facebook. It's you everywhere. This induces something I call click fatigue. Because we all think we owe it to ourselves to research every option, right? We all have what every option means, but there's a magic number that we have, and it usually has to do with time and focus. And so we burn out. Well, if we burn out and all I've looked at is Tim O'Keefe SEO or Spider Juice Technologies SEO stuff all day long in my allotted space of research time, then Tim wins, right? I win. So if you're researching something and you only have so long usually to get to it, you will remember what you just went through. And I'll tell you a story in a minute about a tragedy this week where I literally was in an emergency situation where I was trying to do searches, and I was frustrated that they're horrible locally, these companies at their SEO. Tragedy opened up an opportunity, but we'll talk about in a second. You want all the clicks to be about you. So it's a slippery slope and you win. So most long timer online people think of SEO as a con job. And it probably was back in the day, man. I was, I did all that linking that was from crap sites and anybody, and why? Because it worked. And in some ways, it's still about manipulation of Google. It's still about links. It's just links that they like the sources of. For you, it's about the traffic and the leads and the sales though, right? Okay, I'm an optimizer. I do not like doing something just so it equates to one thing. I want it to cause ripple effects. So I'm not just looking at getting the traffic. I'm looking at I go to page one and there's Tim and there's Tim and there's Tim and there's Tim and there's Tim. Type in your brand. Okay, this is a little bonus. You want to find out your brand footprint, type in your brand, right? So I could type in Spider Juice Technologies or Spider Juice Tech, Spider Juice Coach Tim, etc. Okay, what comes up underneath that? And hopefully every single one that comes up in Google is your brand, is you. It's either your website or your entities, Google My Business, Yelp, etc. Okay, that's what you want coming up. So in another ways, it's a phrase I stole from Jay Abraham, exponential. That's the concept I often will use is you want to go 4D or 5D. And I'm not going to get into all the possibilities, but there's possibilities on the web that you probably don't even know exist. Okay, there's possibilities to get into somebody's. It's almost scary. When some of this stuff I discovered late last year and into this year, and it's almost scary because if we're able to do that to consumers, what are other entities able to do? And I won't get into all that conspiracy stuff, but it's possible. So I use 4 or 5D. Peeps are calling it in some ways today Web3 or meta, which means beyond. Meta means beyond. In semantic terms, we can say the meaning of the meaning. What is the meaning of the meaning, right? So it's kind of like going up to a higher level of awareness. Whenever I search, there you are is beyond static. It's beyond SEO 1.0. It's SEO 3.0. The world of marketing is launched into the exponential. Do you know that you can buy a URL right now, mint it into the blockchain metasphere? So the value is beyond that original transaction. There's a whole other marketplace called blockchain, if I can call that a marketplace, but another world, a metasphere, whatever you want to call it, where that URL now has value also. Okay, so let's transition here. I also promise you free transcription. You can get auto transcription from Authentic, which is a post-production service for MP3s. You can get your MP3 kicked out as a video. You can also get some of the words out of it. They'll transcribe some of it. It's not complete. I do use Authonic, if I can say the word, but I prefer Otter.ai is another one with limits, but will let you take an MP3, I think up to a half hour now, they limit it for free, and or a video, I believe, as I've seen some friends transcribe their Zooms, And the all-time lazy way and free way is you can take your video or convert an MP3 to a video on YouTube, get the transcription. So you just upload something like right now, if I was to upload this, which I'm going to, maybe it's just me trying to get some words that I don't feel like typing. I upload this to YouTube, put it on unlisted. And then what I do is I can just grab the transcription. Now, by the way, just since I'm on that note, I'll give you another bonus. I had a brainchild the other day with my phone. Let's see if I can get my phone in here. With my phone, just putting it in front of me and going through people that just came top of mind, because it was last minute, I think, like on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And I gave them a Thanksgiving video card. Okay, so do the video. It easily will upload to YouTube. Have your YouTube setting for unlisted so nobody else sees it. Copy, paste, Happy Thanksgiving, Joe. And then share to Messenger, and then it will, or to text, and it will auto post Happy Birthday, Joe. And so all you need to do, the next one is just paste in, or not Happy Birthday, Happy Thanksgiving, Bill. Just take out Joe and push in Bill. That's all the typing you got to do. So it's fairly easy. It is, you know, like anything, it takes some time, but it's high impact. You want to talk about high impact? This is high impact. I got some people that were really impressed that I'd done this. So here's 3 ways to use your transcription. So you can use a transcription, if I can talk straight. You can use the transcription to talk and then create text for your blog or social media points, kind of like what I just said a little bit ago. You can use it for easy or consumption. Like I said above, you want to be a master. Take those people I mentioned and read the transcripts. I'll often will take words from something that is maybe a TED Talk, something I really want to deep dive into, and I'll take their words and put them into a notepad doc if I want to speed read through, if I don't want to hear the whole thing. The other thing, by the way, just as a side note, if you want to, like even this video, you can speed it up. I normally, when I'm consuming a video over 1 minute, it's on 1.5 to 2. As fast as I could take it. And you could take a 10-minute video and cut it into 5 minutes if you can. And that's one way to listen to it. So you're also welcome to hear this one right here and take the transcript and just read it. Stick it into a notepad, open it up, and just speed read. You won't have to hear those flubs. This will, as an example for this though, I wrote this first. I'm actually reading this presentation. A lot of times, 99% of the time, I've just gone off and had rehearsed it in my head, and I'll often make the video and then delete it because I don't like the ums and the uhs and all that stuff, and I delete it, or I forgot something, or I left something out. This time I wrote it, and then I'm going this route to text the video. So, but this is be in the blog. It'll be cleaned up. It'll be on the blog at Splatterjuice Technologies but I'm doing the video out there first. The other benefit is you can go to topics that you wish to curate or to get inspired by and grab their text and convert it into meaningful, original from you material for your blogs and articles. There's a thing called AI. It's huge. It's the buzzword that marketers are using to sell to people. I will have a blog or an article, and it's created by AI, and it'll basically do all the heavy work for you. I'm not a big fan. It's a lazy way to create a lot of crap content because, yeah, first of all, is it real AI? Not really. It's just they're ripping it off the word. It's not AI. It's not learning. Not really. Even with Google and their AI, they say AI. They're not learning. You have to forcibly teach them. And I call it training the monkey, but that's a whole different thing, a different topic. So I find you can create better content through, if you want, is go and through YouTube and see what different people all over the country are talking about a certain topic, and you can go in there and grab their text and then make it yours, make it into something that you agree with, that is your twist on it. Or you can even curate it. And curation, the way I like to explain it is, here's the 3 things. So Joe Schmo says the 3 ways to do SEO, and Tim comes in and says, Coach Tim SEO comes in and says, yeah, well, okay, here's the 3, and I quote it or embed it or whatever, and here's 5 more. So we have 8 reasons in the headline to do X, Y, and Z for SEO. So that's another way. So what else this week? This week I had a Zoom call with a high school alumni pal, football teammate, Al Smith, class of '82, St. Bernard High School, and a 10-year veteran with the Houston Oilers. And he worked in office after that as they moved to Tennessee, the Titans. He was a 2-time Pro Bowler, and really a testament that the iron makes champions. Get into the weight room, kids. But other than that, I reached out to him because I caught an amazing interview, totally by accident, that he did, and I gotta have that on my show. He very easily talked about what made him a great football player. He was what I call very aware. So, which I think is important. I mean, do you know why you do what you do well? You should, because if you know what your lanes are, right? What's your lane? What's your skill stack, right? So a lot of times people will go, well, I'll give you an example. The last year I coached, actually 2019, coach football. I had friended up with one of the moms, and she knew me as Coach Tim, football guy, and comes on to social media and sees me and goes, no idea. I had no idea you did all this. Yeah, I got more than one lane, right? Someone beginning of the year said, you're just the marketing guy. Okay. And sometimes I let people leave me in that box or that lane that they have me on, because everybody has their own perception of who we are. But sometimes you'll let them know that you got more lanes, you have more skill stacks, you have more abilities, right? Which is what videos like this can do, is really show a person's authority. So what their skills. So anyway, I talked to Al because he did that great video, and we're meeting again this week for an interview. And why I'm so juiced to get him on tape? Well, he's one of the few guys that really get his success. He's able to tell why he was so good, and also I want to find out how he translated that lessons of 10 years to his business now. And we actually did talk business. He's I find out that he knows Hugh Jackson, who's a professional football coach, coached the Cleveland Browns for many years. He was our quarterback at Pacific when I was a player, and he's, again, a pro coach now. He's in Tennessee near Al, and so it ends up they know each other. And so again, football's a smaller fraternity than many think. Anyway, these concepts are universal, dare I say, ubiquitous to you and me in the business world. My hypnosis friends would call that learning, generalization, generalizing the lesson out of this lane and putting it into this lane, right? Because mastery is mastery, right? So when I interview non-business people, it's for the concepts that can apply to the wider audience. It's for everybody. Sometimes it's easier to just pretend you're in one context and then go, okay, how can I use it in all these other contexts? So that's why I mix my podcasts with a diverse set of people. But anyway, we're looking to do that interview this week. So I'm juiced, jacked about that. And we may do business together on some things. So that's cool, right? And one more thing about football and coaches. Football coaches like Jim Mora, who just was at UCLA on my podcast, and now he's at UConn. He look, if you're running a major college football operation, you have millions of dollars that you're generating, millions, probably more than you or I have coming through our cash flows. So they know something about how to manage people and how to manage organizations. And so that's why, not just why, but part of the reason why, because I do look for those concepts that go beyond just the football field, right? I want to learn how to use them, but that stuff still applies to every day. So let's talk about the tragedy. So I start my day on Thursday, and my wife grabs me out of the office and shows me that our almost 17-year-old cat, he wet the bed. Now that's never happened before, and it was a little bit disturbing. She attended to him, and the day went south from there. So I come back to the office where I sit right now, and I soon hear sobs from my son and my wife. My daughter's off at work, and as they've placed our little guy onto the patio for some air, uh, this incident about this point kind of gives a hint on how the day is going to go. I rush out of my office to see my kitty, Blackie, struggling to walk 3 steps without wobbling and falling over. I hold him, and his eyes are darting like this. He can't focus. To encapsulate a long, long, intense day, I then canceled everything. My son had called in to work and canceled, and we began searching, or I began searching and calling every emergency pet place I can, widening the circle in my Google searches with each try. I made dozens of phone calls. Nobody would see us ASAP. I remember saying at one point to my wife, if there's one thing that I see as a huge business opportunity in Southern California, or at least LA, South Bay, and then parts of LA, is there's a need, there's a shortage of veterinarian clinics in emergency. So the so-called emergency vets could only promise an ambiguous 6 to 8 hour wait in the parking lot because of safety protocols. Everybody's got to sit in the parking lot. Several hours later, and I got nowhere as my circle of search was expanding across LA, and my wife and son kept him cozy and calm throughout the day. Mostly, as it got longer, mostly on Nick's bed as Nick laid with him and kind of snuggled up to him. Our conundrum is that maybe we could wait those hours in a parking lot, but the car would cause nothing but anxiety for the already freaked out cat, I'm sure, which is obviously not good. There was the off chance that they thought if he was really bad on the check-in from the lot, then they'll take him in, stabilize him, and get him stable. But then he'd be alone for 8 hours without us. They won't let us into the office or be with him like pre-pandemic. So he'd be in a cage. That's how I imagined it. And the clock kept turning. The longer the day went, the more frustration. I did get an appointment from a place over in San Pedro for Friday morning. When asked why not right away, she said, it said, I said, I'm looking right at your website, and it says walk-ins, call in to come in right away, whatever. And I said, why can't I just go right in? Her reply was we're already at capacity. I can have you at 8:30 in the morning, Friday morning. My fear was, I don't know if we can wait that long. I would later find out that there is indeed a vet crisis. There's a doctor shortage across LA. Yeah, it's a thing. I found out from a friend who's in the industry who I finally had talked to, and they had to do a at-home euthanasia to put a dog to sleep. Blackie would pass on later that evening. Now, as a football coach and professional persuader, I know that Moments give us opportunities. A good coach looks for frames. In real estate, good agents frame the experience. They stage a property for a sale. I've counseled clients on their onboarding or consulting of clients to stage the in-house experience, to anchor or associate the pain feelings that they want to move away from and avoid, and to associate the positive feelings that they would like. In the cosmetic field, as an example, it's often to recapture those feelings of youth, right? That's why you want to get rid of the wrinkles. You don't want to have the thinning hairline, which wasn't so thin before I got sick a couple months ago from the fever, the woo. And actually high fevers will cause hair loss. I didn't know. Hopefully, knock, it grows back. But with people that are cosmetic, I remind my clients in that field, they want to get that 2-piece bikini body back as opposed to the 1 piece with a wrap, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's what Cialdini talks about earlier with the couch in Money or in Puffy Clouds. How do you frame the experience? Being all over the net frames your searcher to you and your company as the go-to, or scratching their itch to bandaging their wound. These guys that I tried to call not only were difficult to find and imply I actually drove to a place and it implies emergency on there, and they were anything but emergency. And so they, of all these places, they imply emergency and imply urgency. None of them were able to give that, which might be why you can tell that none of them really care much about their SEO. I mean, it's pretty horrible experience. And indeed with Google, I was disappointed. I was feeling like with Google, just going through their Google Maps, that it was like 2005 or 6 with the search results, where it's just not very good. So being the consummate framer, I reminded my family that our guy's mission was accomplished. Blackie's mission was accomplished. My daughter and boy picked him out many years ago. Blackie raised them up. My daughter's about to empty the nest, move out. My son, I am guessing, is not too far off. I said to them that Blackie waited for or shall I say his girl, to get home from work before his exit. The picture I was attempting to paint was the rite of passage. Our kids are at the end of the flight from the nest, the emancipation. Blackie's passage should serve as a signal that it's time we all learn we're going to have to adjust to a new life. Blackie was our family's focal point. I even had a voice for him from the time the kids were little, and it just still to this day could get laughs because they're imagining him talking while I'm actually kind of ventriloquisting his voice. And so he was the magnet of our attention. He was always involved with us, greeting me usually pre-dawn as I'm making my coffee, begging to be held and sit on my lap, or begging to get into one of the kids' rooms or lay with my wife. And he'd sit on our laps on movie night and hanging out in the backyard with the neighborhood cats. We have, I call it a cat party. I could look out through my window to the backyard right now, and I would see cats out there, as well as blue jays who pick on the cats, blackbirds who occasionally pick on the cats, and Chuckles, the squirrel. And most of the time, everybody got along, and an occasional skunk. So it's a little bit of a party. During the time period when Julie and I and the kids were in bed from the Wu flu, Blackie would burst into our room, plop on our bed, then make noise and walk across our achy heads, literally putting a stamp on my face. He was banished to my office right here at nighttime, and he made it his own. He went way past his expiration date, and he served us with honor. So that's a little bit of SEO embedded into my story. So, okay, blockchain. The world's in disruption. If you haven't noticed that, I don't, you're not paying attention. There's a lot of change in the air. A lot of people that usually sound super, super rational. Like my son gave me a Charlie Munger thing, and he goes, "That is not very rational. He's in his head. He's in emotions, right?" And I go, "Well, there's not a lot of fundamentals that you could trust." A friend of mine sent over a research in LA on jobs per industry, and he was talking about advertising and saying, "Look, it looks like you're about to blow up in your industry if this is to be taken with any sort of value." And I said, God, I just really have a hard time reading things like these because it's so distance from the actual event to the statistic. In other words, I don't trust job numbers. They're not, as he ended up pointing out, well, that's true. Like, what about a gig worker, right? How does that count? You got a Lyft worker, an Uber worker who also does the food stuff, the DoorDashes and things of that nature. How many jobs do they have? Or is it just one job? Or is it 4 jobs or 5, right? And, you get the point. And so there's a lot of weird stuff going on that makes it not only disruptive, but causes a lot of anxiety in usually rational people. We see this from the White House, without getting too political, which I'm happy to do most of the time, all the way down into our neighbors, into our local politicians, into local businesses, local behavior. And so what I want to talk about is blockchain, and why what I just said kind of makes blockchain make more sense to me. So I've gone back and forth on this, but Zuck is changing his business for a reason. Facebook is now Meta. Dorsey just dropped down from Twitter and almost immediately rebranded his Square into Block. It was Chris Thomas Solo, who we would, way back in the early 2000s, he was coined Dr. Sulo, that spent much of his interview with me about Bitcoin framings. It's a viability by discussing the concept of currency. And I'm not sure if I'm doing the interview fair. It's one of the most popular interviews I've done. Check it out at soundcloud.com/Tim O'Keefe. My take on it was that if we all agree on a value, then it has value. It doesn't matter what someone else thinks, as it's backed by gold, which our dollar isn't. Nothing is. And you can't trade gold. I can't give people. This was been my argument all the time. Hedge is a hedge. Gold is a hedge against whatever. Okay, but I can't just hand you a pound of gold. You're not going to take it because you can't do anything with it, right? And so value is whatever's in our head. If I'm going to trade my car for your car, you're going to say, well, my car's more expensive. It's $1,000 more value than your car. And I said, well, okay, I agree. Or no, I agree it's more valuable, but it's only $500 more valuable, right? So and where's that come from? It's all in our head. It's made up, right? It's what I think it's worth, you think it's worth, and we come to an agreement. That's essentially what I highly recommend the interview, but it's essentially the lesson I got from that. And because he talked a lot about currencies and going back to Roman times, and currencies that operate right now in the United States that are real, real currency that you could touch. But do you really need to touch it? Do you touch it? How many times do you transfer money? Right? I just paid my car insurance. I think it was yesterday, and I just hit transfer, done. Right? And I think it was either off a credit card or right out of the bank, one or the other. Doesn't matter. I never touched the currency. I just transferred it. So how important is a dollar? Piece of paper. So here's my take in 2021 with all this disruption and stuff. I think it's more possible that people are willing to indulge into this non-tangible thing called digital currency. I'm more interested in not just the digital currency, but the fact that it's digital into the blockchain. They're building stuff off of this. The world's decentralizing, it's disrupting, and it's decentralizing. The normal powers are flexing right now to continue their authoritarian hold. Many are using the events of the past 2 years or so in order to justify doing that. Understanding narratives and frames helps you to cut through to the truth. So without going down the rabbit hole there, I will just leave you with my take. So there's a larger world than Bitcoin. It's unlimited, and that world is being built on blockchain and includes cryptocurrency, but also the so-called metaverse, which I think sells the concept short, as I pointed out, as we think of the metaverse as some game land like Fortnite, which was my first impression, which it is. There's a place where you can actually buy real estate called Sandbox, and it's not cheap. So still trying to wrap my brain and meta brain around that one, but there are 40 uses that we still do not understand, but it does allow for digital worlds to be produced beyond imagination. Here are the pros and cons right now that really kind of have flipped me, at least as today. So here's the skeptic me. It's manufactured or mined by anyone. If I'm able to build a coin, mine it. Now, if you have a better understanding of this, please put it in the comments. And in fact, any of this, please put it in the comments. But the dollar is backed by the full faith of the US. You're just Joe Schmo, you know, the snotty-nosed kid in his parents' basement is on his computer mining currency, and I'm supposed to value that? You know, the dollar's backed by the full faith of the US freaking government, man. Okay, here's the skeptic. Crypto bullish me. Or not the skeptic, but the counter argument, excuse me. Crypto bullish me. Yeah, I'm sure the Afghan interpreters agree with your full faith thing. How'd that go? And how about that mining? Who drives the economy? Governments or people? The only reason the economy grows or inflates or deflates or whatever is by the government. Yeah, they're throwing those dollars out there or retracting on the dollars, but they're not the ones spending it. It's us that are spending it. And then they take it back through taxes and then pay their people off to manage the government. Isn't that how it works? Something like that. When the Treasury mines nonstop, which devalues your buck, such that by the end of the year, your $1 is now worth 77 cents. Actually, my bad. As of October this year, the end of October, we're at a 6.2% inflation annualized. So it's $1 minus 6 cents. 77 cents is actually how much. I think it lost like 23%, I think, or something like that in 1 month. So it's month over month. So why wouldn't people consider something else? I mean, it's all funny money anyway, right? It's all monopoly money, which is sort of disconcerting if you think about really now where's money come from. But so at some point people go, what do I have to lose? And that, my friend, is why right now I'm bullish on digital 3.0, web 3.0. I'm mostly interested in how it builds out. That URL service, I'll have a link to that, maybe with an affiliate. You can buy a URL, buy your business URL, and then it's minted and it's now on the blockchain. So it has a forever value that's tied to you. No one else can have it. So isn't that a little bit more interesting than buying timswebsite.com and then I forget to pay for it, and now somebody else picks it up and holds me hostage to get it? So anyway, So thanks for hanging out. I'll leave you with how I was met this morning with my short walk from the coffee press in the kitchen to opening the drapes. I look outside in the front and I see Blackie's pal, Shadow. Codename Doter. We call him Doter. Blackie, we called Bobby. Okay, just, we all do crazy, stupid things with our animals, right? So Shadow was sitting there super close up to the almost to the window, where just a few short away, his buddy left us about 2 nights ago. And I found that pretty interesting. This is Coach Tim out, and I hope you got something out of this today.